So we're really excited to have our congressman for the 6th District, Tom Emmer, with us today. He's very active in our district and a good friend of our chamber and actually a member of our Chamber of Commerce. And he's going to give us an update on ag and what's happening in Washington, D.C. with the agricultural community. So Congressman, thank you for joining us today, and I'll just turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Teresa, and thank you for all the great work that you've done on behalf of the chamber and in our area. Good morning, everyone. Great to be with all of you. As Teresa told you, in case you don't know, I am Tom Emmer, and I represent Minnesota's 6th congressional district here in Washington, D.C. I really wish I could be with all of you in person. I think many of you probably feel the same way. Hopefully that'll happen sometime soon. Regardless, I'm glad that we still have the ability to connect, albeit in this virtual environment. It's great to see the annual Central Minnesota Farm Show continue despite these unique and challenging times. The ag community has always adapted to change and found new innovative ways to feed our nation and others, by the way. It's no surprise that you found new ways to get together and engage during this pandemic. I'd like to thank Laura Wagner, the Special Events Coordinator for the St. Cloud Area Chamber of Commerce, and the whole team at the Chamber for putting this event on today and for allowing me to join all of you. I'd also like to send a special thank you as I started out mentioning the work that Teresa has done. But I want to say thank you, Teresa. You've been an amazing president of the St. Cloud Chamber. All the hard work that you've put in over the years leading this chamber, and I think it's 20 years.
23.
23. All right. Well, we're not going to shortchange you. Listen, you've been a friend to me personally and to our office. And as I said at the outset, you have been an amazing advocate for the St. Cloud area. I'm going to be personally sad to see you retire, but it's certainly well earned and well deserved. Fingers crossed that we're going to be able to get together sometime soon to celebrate all of your hard work and success in person. And to continue the trend of thank yous and farewells, yesterday's announcement that this will be Kevin Papp's last year as the president of the Farm Bureau is doubly sad for me. I mean, it seems like Kevin is the only one that I've known for all these years in that capacity. 16 years, I think he's been doing that, Teresa. So big deal. He's been such a strong ally and a leader during this entire time. And Kevin has been one of the most reliable resources that we have and a great friend to our office and to our 6th district. I know he's not going to be leaving agriculture, so we're going to continue to have his presence, but he's certainly going to leave behind a legacy at Farm Bureau that will be second to none. All right, I'm going to keep things brief. Teresa, I know you've got lots of business this morning, but I'd like to start by sharing a quick legislative update, and then I'm happy to shift to answer any questions that the people that are gathered on this virtual meeting might have. Our work in Congress is centered around the work that many of you do. Agriculture is the top driver of Minnesota's economy in the 6th district. But look, if you understand Minnesota, it's agriculture and manufacturing that drive our private economy. To me, it's not lost, or I don't forget how important the work you do is to our state and to our country and, quite frankly, the world. If anything, this pandemic has heightened people's awareness of the fact that their food comes from someplace other than just a grocery store. You and your families work long days year-round to ensure that your fellow Americans and people around the world have food on the shelves and at their tables. Although commodity prices currently remain strong, this past year was full of challenges. And let's face it, the future still remains uncertain. Over the last 12 months, Congress has worked to direct resources to our growers, producers, and our processors through a number of different mechanisms to keep our food supply chain moving. Congress came together 5 separate times to pass COVID relief legislation with bipartisan support, which is why I'm disappointed that the current COVID relief efforts that are moving through the House and the Senate have been done on an entirely partisan fashion. The $1.9 trillion bill, which the House is expected to consider tomorrow, fails to include Republican amendments that would prioritize infrastructure investments to strengthen our ag supply chain, to improve broadband expansion, especially rural broadband expansion, restart the CFAP program, which for some reason has been frozen by the new administration, and to direct funding to support biofuel producers impacted by the pandemic. It's tough. With more than $1 million in funding from the previous COVID relief bills still yet to be implemented, adding another $2 trillion without targeting it to the areas of greatest need, I believe is a recipe for fiscal disaster, especially with all the spending that frankly had to be done over the last several months, almost a year now since the pandemic started. Pulling our country out of this pandemic should not be a partisan exercise, and I can only hope that we're going to refocus our efforts on reopening our economy and getting people back to work. To that end, there's plenty of work to be done to ensure our food supply chain is safe and secure. I firmly believe, and COVID, I believe, has proven, that agriculture is no longer just an issue for rural America. Agriculture is a national security issue for every American. That's why our office worked with the previous administration to expand the use of the Defense Production Act to meat processors and packaging facilities, and to support legislation like the Price Act, which enhanced small processor and producer-owned cooperatives opportunities. The Price Act also updated the Packers and Stockyards Act for greater transparency in the cattle markets, and it removed onerous regulatory barriers to try and improve competition. Another issue we've been working on is called the Ag Chain Act, which would provide a federal tax holiday and payroll tax exemption for all essential employees in the food and ag industry. During times of crisis, I can think of no better way to express our support for the essential nature of your work and the work of thousands of Americans from every corner of our food and ag industry than by putting more of your hard-earned money back into your pockets. Along those same lines, but separate from COVID, we've been working to call attention to an issue proposed by the Biden administration, which would be detrimental, I believe, to our farm families who have worked for years on estate plans designed to encourage younger generations to continue living and working on the family farm. You know, it's one of the issues I've been involved in since I got here, which is, where's the next generation of farmer going to come from? And how do we incentivize and encourage people to get into the business, the lifestyle of farming? As some of you may know, President Biden is planning to increase the capital gains tax to 39.6% from the current 23.8% and eliminate the step-up basis that you determine the value for tax purposes of an estate. The administration's plans would also require immediate taxes on unrealized gains for farmers who pass away. Just think about that for a second. These changes would result in a significant tax increase for ag families and those seeking to inherit a family farm. This is just the opposite type of policy that we want if we're going to incentivize the next generation and others to get into the great business of farming. With the vast majority of ag assets that we know are always tied up in land, buildings, and equipment, we're hearing from farmers around the country concerned with President Biden's proposed tax changes. And I'm confident he's going to be listening, especially with Tom Vilsack at the Department of Agriculture. Now, many have told us, of those that have contacted us, that they would either have to take out large loans or sell off land in order to pay the taxes that would be imposed if the head of the family suddenly and tragically passes away, which would leave multi-generational farms with little to no option but to sell. The imposition of capital gains taxes at the time of a farm transition, along with a massive rate increase, I believe would be a death knell for generational farming. That's why we're asking the Biden administration for an exemption for farms under his proposed tax increase plan and a continuation of the unlimited step-up basis. We'll keep you posted, and if you have any questions about that, please be in contact with our office. Also, I think if you think about American agriculture, period, this is an important juncture in our country's history. These tax issues like these with, I'm counting on President Biden to agree, with unintended consequences. You have to be aware that providing an exemption from this kind of a tax increase is key to preserving the family farming tradition and incentivizing the next generation of farmers and producers. So in addition, by the way, to focusing on the long-term financial well-being of our farming community, we're going to continue to place an emphasis on improving access to mental health care in the rural and agriculture-heavy areas of our country. At the start of the 117th Congress, our office introduced the Stress Under COVID-19 Act, which instructs the USDA to expedite awards under the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. FIRSAN, I think, is how people typically refer to it. This network provides mental health assistance directly to the ag community, and it connects farmers and ranchers to resources aimed at improving behavioral health awareness. The Stress Under COVID-19 Act provides an additional $10 million this fiscal year and increases the funds authorized to be used in the next 4 years by $20 million to provide more resources to the ag community. This bill is an extension of an effort that began in 2018. When the Farm Bill was being discussed, our office, I introduced the Stress Act to provide funding for the network, which was created in 2008, but which never received any funding, and which is amazing to me. We were able to get the language from the Stress Act included in the 2018 Farm Bill, and the program was reauthorized. And since then, we've been able to get the funding that I mentioned approved in each appropriation cycle. The events of the last year and the continued pressures placed on our farmers and ranchers have tested the mental health of many. For those of you who keep getting up to go to work every day in order to supply the food on our tables, I believe you deserve access to quality mental health care. And I know I've got a lot of colleagues who agree with me. There are several other topics that I'm sure we can discuss in addition to the ones, Teresa, that I've already mentioned. But I think I'd like to stop here and just thank everyone who's on this call once again for all you do to keep our state and our country fueled and fed. And perhaps we can open it up for questions. Teresa, just a quick reminder, if there is ever anything that we can help you with, my office, please know our office is always available to you, no matter where you live, by the way. Please do not hesitate to reach out to our team in Minnesota or Washington if you need help with any federal agency or program. Again, thanks for having me, Teresa.
Thank you, Congressman. And we will open it up for questions. So this is a great time for any of you. If you've got a question, and I think that Congressman Emmer would agree, no question is too simple, or if you're reluctant to ask it, you really should, because this is a great time to have some one-on-one time with the Congressman. So does anyone have a question? You can certainly unmute to ask it.
Yeah, you want me to respond to the chat? I see.
Oh, sure.
Dan Martins is asking about national debt. Let me just open it up. National
that sounds
debt.
Great.
Yeah, it weighs on the ag community along with the rest of the economy. Where's the money coming from being paid out on COVID spending? To who and how will it be paid back? You're absolutely right, Mr. Martins. This is the problem that I'm having with the current bill. Last spring, I actually put out a statement before voting on the CARES Act where I called it a Hobson's choice. We have huge debt, and to me, that has to be dealt with in this country. But I felt back in May when we passed the CARES Act that because the government, not the people, the government had literally shut the economy down, I thought that we had the obligation to try and help people get across the bridge from the shutdown to the other side and at least survive so that they could hopefully thrive another day. This is now continued. This is now continued by decisions that have been made primarily by governors who have decided what they want to do in their states. This latest COVID bill, for everybody on this call, 91% of the 1.9 trillion is not COVID related. When it left the House, it actually had $140 million for a train in Silicon Valley. Thankfully, the Senate pulled that out. But 9% is directed at COVID, and we've got $1 trillion that has yet to be implemented from the prior CARES Act and then the supplemental CARES Act that was passed right before the election. $1 trillion is still out there. We have expanded our debt. We've eaten in 10 years in the last 8 months. We have grown the debt. We're crossing over with this 1.9 trillion, the $30 trillion number. Where's it coming from? It's coming from a world system that still recognizes our currency as the currency in the world, the reserve currency, and we can still borrow against it. We are borrowing against it, and others are borrowing against it. But the United States of America is the #1 holder of our own debt. This is a dangerous time financially, because as we come out, we need to get our economy opened up. We need to have strong financial growth, and we need to start attacking the debt, which is what I told President Trump over the 4 years that he was in office. And it's the same message that I'm going to give President Biden as we move forward. So, Dan, if I can call you that, that to me is the #1 issue. But right now, we've got to get our economy opened up. Foreign trade negotiations. I will be happy to, Bernie. So I think it's interesting to watch the Biden administration. They definitely are thought of differently than the prior administration, the Trump administration, with our markets, with countries around the world. But so far, for everyone on this call, they are not changing course with where the Trump administration was heading in terms of our negotiations with foreign countries. So I expect trade to continue to improve. I think the biggest issue that we're going to have is China. There's no question that China was the issue under the former administration. It's going to be the issue under this one. But I do expect, just because the environment is going to change, I think we should see some improvement as the world's economy starts to open up again. Anybody? What's your small dairy? Yeah, the question, Teresa, that you just put up there, is there still interest, motivation to keep small farmers in business? That was the whole point of the dairy program in the last farm bill, trying to make sure that we specifically targeted the small owner-operated dairy farm. Although that's probably the wrong way to say it, but I think people on the call know what I'm talking about. We need everyone. I'm not going to be a person that says a certain farm of a certain size is the only thing that we need to move forward with. Not at all. We need the larger farms. We need our small family-run farms. We need everybody, much like we need everybody in the financial system. You know, we need the big banks. We need the small community banks. We need the credit unions, etc. It's no different in farming, guys. But here is the difference in farming. There's fewer and fewer of you farming more and more, producing more and more for all of us. It goes back to what I started with, Teresa. This has been a priority of ours since I came to Congress. Where is the next generation of farmer going to come from? How do we make it easier for the current generation to transfer assets to not only family members, but people perhaps outside the family as they start to return to greater Minnesota? Because you know what? They don't want to raise their families in these urban areas with all the unrest that we've seen. I just think with the advances in broadband that we're going to see, that we've seen during the pandemic and that we're going to see, that's paramount. But you're going to see more people wanting to move into small towns to raise their families the way we did years ago. And I think we need to come up with policies that allow you in the community right now to figure out how you move to the next stage of life in the most efficient way possible, with the most value possible, while at the same time allowing a new generation to pick up where you've left off and grow agriculture even bigger and better than you've done. This is going to be the challenge. Yeah. Where do I stand on allowing migrant workers to continue working? I think we need anybody and everybody that we can possibly bring in. I hope that we're going to be looking at some solutions, by the way, on the migrant side, and that will ensure access. Because keep in mind, I think there's been an arrogance in our country, an arrogance that if you come to this country to work, oh, well, naturally you want to stay. Well, that's not true. I mean, I've got farmers in the district that have been bringing people in from the Ukraine for years. It's not just Mexico. They bring them from other places in the world, and they have a relationship with these workers and their families so that it's seasonal. They come to our country, they want to work, they make money, they want to go home. We need the help. As long as we're not displacing our American workforce, we should find ways for that to happen. I think you're going to see more of that. Unfortunately, the problem that you have, it gets caught up in this politics of, and now the new administration is doing this. They're opening up the border. They don't understand that the majority of this country, vast majority of this country, believes in safe and secure borders. That we do not believe in open borders. A country without borders is not a country. I think the president said last week, we've abolished ICE, essentially abolished ICE without abolishing ICE. That's wrong. You can maintain a strong and secure border for the safety of this nation, while at the same time crafting rules that allow people to come across that border who may not have any intention of becoming a citizen of the United States, but actually supply valuable labor that we can access. So hopefully we're going to start getting some cooler heads that prevail on that. Food contamination, yeah. Well, that's an agency issue. And by the way, I think if I can Gail, if I can segue just a little bit, I think if you guys have not studied it, you should get on the internet when you have free time, which I know is going to disappear rapidly, very quickly, because you're all going to be busy with the planting season. And those of you that are milking may not have a lot of free time anyway, working on the farm and off the farm. But there's this thing called blockchain technology that you probably have heard primarily with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and that kind of stuff. But this technology is being implemented in the logistics business currently. And it allows for the tracking back of these issues you're asking me about, food contamination issues in real time, right to the very location that it originated from. So hopefully we here in the government are making sure that our agencies are getting updated much like the private sector, so that doesn't create a serious disruption of the supply chain, and that it can get addressed, and it doesn't draw a whole bunch of non-contaminated producers into the issue.
Great. Thank you, Congressman, for your information today. And I just want to let people know that the best way to reach your office is that through the district office here in the district.
Either way, the district office for people who are well, everybody's going to be in Minnesota, but yes, either through the office in Otsego or Washington, Teresa, either one works.
Okay, and if anyone has any issues, you can certainly reach out to the chamber and we'll help you make that connection as well. Thank you, Congressman Emmer, for all the work you do on behalf of the agricultural community. And we so appreciate you taking this half hour. I just want to say your chief of staff reached out to us and said, is there some way we can help with your conference? So that was just a wonderful resource. And thank you for joining us today.
Well, Teresa, thank you. And the reason he did is because, you know, I started on the Ag Committee. And Minnesota is about agriculture. And it's more important now than ever that the policymakers are embedded in the community and that the community knows that we're here to help. So thank you for allowing us to sell ourselves at the same time. And I hope everybody on here understands you're of primary importance, not just to our great state of Minnesota, but to the United States and beyond. We're here to work for you. Thank you, Teresa, for 23 years. I hope we're going to have some kind of reception. I hope we're going to be allowed to do that before this is over. End of the summer, right?
That's what it's looking like.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. Well,
thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, Representative Emmer, we appreciate you being here. And it is already, 10 o'clock. The morning is flying by. We are Farming Today. You're here with Farming Today, and we'll be going into our next speaker presentation in a second. Thank you again, Mr. Emmer, Representative Emmer. I do want to take a second. Our sponsors are so important. I want to take a second to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll get you into our breakout room with Jim Zawaska in just a minute.
Minnesota Milk welcomes you to the Farming Today conference. Be sure to listen to Dr. Maren Bozic with a Dairy Outlook, sponsored by our organization. Our goal is to help provide your farm better government policy, learning opportunities, and membership benefits to help your family succeed. Our dairy farmer-led board is leading on changes for manure use, beginning farmers, and broadband internet. Since 1977, Minnesota Milk has been the grassroots organization for Minnesota's dairy industry. Our strength comes from members working together and focusing on 3 key areas: policy, taking timely action to support or oppose issues impacting our members; education, providing programs that further the professional goals of our members; membership, creating more opportunities for our members to prosper. Learn more at mnmilk.org.
What's your plan for the future? When others told me my plans weren't possible, Compeer Financial saw potential. They helped me diversify my operation and find new paths to succeed. Compeer understood that I needed to expand more than acreage to grow my operation.
We kept hearing about the challenges of living out here, but Compeer saw possibilities. They worked with us, going through the details in ways we could understand. Compeer made buying our forever home easier than we ever dreamed.
Compeer understood what the next generation of our dairy needed to succeed. They knew exactly where we wanted to go and guided us every step of the way. Thanks to Compeer, we've set up our family dairy to keep growing into the future.
Partner with us to make your goals possible.